I want to shift the focus to Henry because Henry, I know under the Brain Capital group of companies, you do have a division to reach out to young children.
Yes.
And I want to hear from you your experience in bringing education to this group of people. At the same time, what you hope to do through this business of yours.
Well, in the area of, let me start with preschool because this is young children, and I think that Singapore has just recently, the Prime Minister last week just recently said that they will start a statutory board to look after the preschool sector. And in the preschool area, and even in primary school, it is exactly what we were talking about earlier on, that people believe a belief that is wrongly founded on particular, way of thinking, and then they use that and said, well, play is a bad thing because when I was a kid, I played, and look where I was when I was 10 years old. I couldn't read, I couldn't count, and so play is a bad thing. So they use the past experience to use, whatever life has taught them, so to speak. But that's the wrong formula because today we know that play is so important. So let me just throw a bit of light in that area because I'm particularly interested in this area. In fact, I am a proponent of game-based learning. I love Montessori education. Both my kids went through it. I got myself educated. In fact, at one stage, I ran an institute that we were certified by the MCYS in Singapore to offer diploma in preschool teaching, Montessori style.
Wow.
Yeah, in fact, it was one of the first that it was done in Singapore.
Excellent.
So let me cast a little light on this area. If you watch a child play, right, it is like watching silkworm spinning silk. Now, if you've ever seen raw silkworm, it looks like a mess, and you want to touch it. It's like, ugh, this is just a mess. I want to throw that away. But if you start to ask young children questions, like, for example, hey John, I saw you playing in the playground, and I know you're tired, but you're going to take a rest now. What made you move up and down that seesaw? Because I saw you moving here and there. What did you experience there? And little John will tell you that, well, yeah, when I was at the end, when two of my friends sat on the other side, I couldn't balance, so I had to shift myself out to the other end of the seesaw. You are opening them up to mathematical thinking, to physics, which I only learned when I was in secondary school, and which I, learned more when I went to engineering school. But I learned that when I think back what my lecturers taught me in engineering school, I said, this is what I knew when I was in kindergarten. This is exactly what I did. And I realized that when I was sitting in my swing, the faster, the more force that I could feel behind me when my mom was pushing me, that I could go further on the pendulum. That's force, reaction, Newton's law. Nobody asked me that question. Years later, when I reflected, I realized I was actually experiencing the law of Newton. So just ask them simple questions to help them to take that silk that they are already spinning to make it into a beautiful piece of fabric.
Right.
And all you need to do is ask one or two questions. Now don't throw 50 questions at them after play. Like, hey, how did you get the idea of making that box to a spaceship? And the spaceship reminds me of something. Which one have you seen before? Say, oh yeah, in the cartoon when yesterday I saw Donald Duck doing this, and then they begin to realize that this is where their ideas came from. And if they want more ideas, watch more cartoons. It's okay. As long as you are able to extract information and use it to solve problems or to find solutions, right? Or to just have fun. And when I did my research as a doctoral student, I realized it's exactly the same principles. It's exactly the same principles. We play with numbers, we play with situations, and then we observe, and then we extract information. It all starts with questions.
Right.
But in young children, we start with actions, but you should end with questions. What is missing is the skillfulness of the parent, the guardian, the teacher to use questions to extract principles from play.
Right.
And that's something that's missing.
That's interesting. Okay, Tony and Henry, before we end this segment, I just want you to just...
End that segment. I thought we finished that segment.
Okay, I'll just, some final words from you. Let's start with Henry. You know, Henry talk about building a more intelligent child. Let's start with the child. Individuals, family, organization, and finally nation. In fact, ultimately, as an intelligent planet. What is one or two things that you like to say? How can we as individuals, you know, do to move
Well,
towards that?
when we go back to global mental literacy, I think this is a solution to the problems that we're facing right now. And I want us to take apart a little bit about the global mental literacy, because in one of the areas of literacy, or mental literacy, is the understanding of how our brain works. But I want to take that one level deeper, and that is in the understanding of how our thinking works. Because unless we are aware of our thinking, as in why we are thinking, what we are thinking, how we are thinking, and when we are thinking, we will not be able to change our thinking. And thinking is so fundamental that unless we get into that area of our lives, we would not be able to change. In fact, a lot of people resist change because they think in a wrong way and they do not examine their own thinking. In the earlier part of my life, I had the pleasure and the benefit and I would say really the blessing of meeting Tony. And what Tony did for me was also to challenge the way I think about mind and body, about the brain, the way the brain works. And he planted that seed in 1974 through his book.
That's
and
amazing.
so when
Almost
I
40
finally
years.
met Tony, it was kind of easy because a lot of it was prepared, so to speak, for that. And that set me on a journey which helped me to improve. And I would like to give that gift back to society, to help children at a young age to understand the way they think and to examine the way they think and to have that ability, which is mental literacy, to improve. And hopefully included in that package would be the ethical thinking part.
Right.
To know that, what I'm doing, is it good for the society, is it good for my neighbors, is it good for my fellow friends, is it good for my parents? And if we can get that fixed, I think that is the solution for a better world. That would be what I would call a thoughtful, mindful world.
Thank you.